Stephen Curry's mother is kicked out of a Ferrari store. What he does next will inspire millions. She walked into the store like any other customer, a stylish woman, confident and elegant, with a presence that turned heads. She had no idea what was about to happen. She looked around at the sleek, shiny cars on display, the deep reds, the glossy blacks, the polished chrome gleaming under the bright lights. This wasn't just a car showroom. It felt like a palace for machines. But she wasn't there to show off, she was just browsing, maybe thinking about something special, something nice. Then it happened. A man in a suit approached her, cold eyes, tight mouth. He didn't smile, didn't greet her, just said one sentence. "You need to leave." She blinked. "Excuse me," he repeated himself. "You don't belong here. Please go." She stood still, shocked, confused. She hadn't touched anything, hadn't spoken loudly, hadn't even asked a question yet. But he didn't care. Security guards appeared. Two of them, standing behind the man, arms crossed, watching, waiting. And just like that, she was gone, kicked out, humiliated, for no reason anyone could understand. That woman, that was Sonya Curry, Stephen Curry's mother. Yes, that's Stephen Curry, the NBA legend, the Golden State Warriors icon, the man who broke records, defied odds, and became a global superstar. And now, his mom, treated like she didn't belong. Let me tell you what happened next. Because what Stephen did after hearing this story, it didn't just shock the world, it inspired millions to understand why this moment hurt so much. We have to go back before the championships, before the fame, before the billions. Back when Stephen was just a kid, Sonya Curry was more than just his mom. She was his rock, his protector, his biggest fan. She raised him, alongside her husband Dell, who played in the NBA too. But while Dell was on the road, it was Sonya who made sure Stephen stayed grounded, who got him up for school, who made sure he did his homework, who held him when he cried after being cut from a team or overlooked by scouts. She believed in him when nobody else did. Even when people said he was too small, too slow, not good enough. She told him otherwise. And look where he ended up. MVP, champion, one of the greatest shooters in NBA history. But none of that erased what happened that day. When Stephen found out what they did to his mother, he didn't scream, he didn't yell, he didn't need to. What he did next was pure class. He called her, sat down, listened, and then he made a plan, one that would turn humiliation into empowerment, one that would send a message heard around the world. But first, let's go back to that moment. Sonya left the store shaking. She tried to laugh it off at first, said maybe they thought she was lost, that maybe it was just a misunderstanding. But deep down, she knew better. She'd been through life long enough to know what that was. Judgment, bias, disrespect, based on nothing but the color of her skin. She didn't say much about it at first, didn't want to make a scene, didn't want to cause trouble. But when Stephen asked her what happened, she told him everything. And Stephen, he didn't hesitate. He picked up the phone, and he made a call, not to the Ferrari dealership, not to their corporate office. He went higher, much higher. He reached out to someone who could help him flip the script, someone who understood power and influence, and how to use both. Are you ready to find out what happened next? Because what came next will inspire you forever. Stephen Curry made that call, the person on the other line, a close friend, a business partner, someone who understood what it meant to build something from nothing. Rick Sutphin, co-founder of a major brand, a man who knew how to make things happen. Stephen didn't ask for revenge. He asked for opportunity. He told Rick, "I want my mom to have whatever car she wants, not because of me, but because she deserves it." That's when the plan started to take shape. But Stephen wasn't done yet. He called his team, his people, the ones who handled his brand, his image, his partnerships. And he said something simple: "I want to do something big." What he had in mind wasn't just about cars, it was about respect. It was about standing up for his family. It was about proving that no one, not even someone as powerful as a global sports icon, should ever be treated like they don't belong. So while the world didn't know what was coming, Stephen Curry was already working behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Sonya tried to move on with her day. She didn't post anything online, didn't go live on social media, didn't even tell many people what happened. That's who she is. Strong, quiet, dignified. But word got out. Somehow, maybe someone saw her leave, maybe someone overheard the exchange. Either way, the story started to spread. People were angry. They saw photos of Sonya, read the few details that came out, and they couldn't believe it. How could someone treat Stephen Curry's mother like that? But Stephen didn't care about the outrage. He cared about his mom, and he wanted to do something meaningful, not just for her, but for everyone who's ever been judged before they could speak, everyone who's ever walked into a place and felt like they didn't belong. He wanted to show them that they did. So here's what he did next. He reached out to a different car company, one that understood values, that respected people, that believed in giving back, and he made a deal. He would partner with them, not just for a single event, but for something bigger, something bold. He wanted to create a program, a scholarship for young people who wanted to work in the automotive industry, people who, like him and his mom, came from humble beginnings, people who might not get a second look, but who had drive, who had dreams, who had potential, and at the center of it all, his mother, Sonya Curry, because if there was one thing this moment taught him, it was that sometimes, the worst moments can lead to the best ideas. So while the internet buzzed about what happened at that Ferrari store, Stephen was already building something better, something lasting, something real. But the story doesn't end there, because then, he invited his mom to an event. Didn't tell her much, just said, "Come with me. I want you to see something." She didn't ask questions. She trusted him. And when she walked into that room, she had no idea what was waiting for her. Are you ready for what happened next? Because it's about to change everything. The room was packed, not with reporters, not with fans, not even with NBA stars. It was filled with young people, dreamers, future engineers, designers, mechanics and business leaders. They all sat quietly, waiting. Then the doors opened. Sonya Curry walked in. She looked around, confused. Stephen stood at the front of the room, smiling. He stepped up to the microphone. "I want to thank you all for being here today," he said. "This isn't just another event. This is the start of something we've been working on for a while." Sonya watched him speak. She had no idea what this was about, until Stephen turned to her. "Mom," he said softly, "this is because of you." And then he told the whole story. How she was kicked out of that store. How it hurt. How it wasn't fair. But how from that pain came an idea to help others, to open doors that had stayed closed for too long. He introduced the new program, a full scholarship initiative, partnered with a major car brand, for students who wanted to work in the automotive industry, but didn't have the money or the connections. Each year, dozens of young people would get the chance to learn, grow, and build careers, thanks to this program. And guess who would lead it? Sonya Curry. She would be the face of, the heart of it. Because this wasn't just about cars. It was about respect, about dignity, about proving that one moment of disrespect could turn into a movement of empowerment. When Stephen finished speaking, the crowd stood up. Applause filled the room. Sonya looked around. Her eyes were wet. She didn't say much at first, just hugged her son, tight. Then she stepped to the mic. "I never wanted attention," she said. "I just wanted to be treated like I belonged. And now," she smiled, "looks like I'm helping make sure more people feel that way." That moment spread like fire. People watched the video online. They shared it. They talked about it. Not because of the drama, but because of the response. Stephen didn't fight hate with hate. He fought it with hope. He took a painful moment and turned it into purpose. And that's why millions were inspired. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't anger, it's action, it's kindness, it's lifting others up when someone tries to knock you down. So what happened to the Ferrari dealership? Well, that part of the story faded away, because the world stopped paying attention to them, and started paying attention to what Stephen Curry and his mother were building. Something real, something meaningful, something that would last far longer than any luxury car. And that is the power of character, of class, of choosing to rise, instead of react. You might think this story ends here, with a powerful moment, a beautiful message, and a feel-good ending. But the truth, this is where the real impact begins. Because what Stephen Curry did for his mom didn't just make headlines, it made history, and it sparked something in people all over the world. Let me tell you about one of them, a young man named Marcus. He was 17 years old, from a small town in Georgia. His dream, to work in car design. He spent hours sketching cars in his notebook, watching YouTube videos about engines and aerodynamics. Even took apart his dad's old truck just to see how it worked. But he had no money, no connections, just passion. And every time he tried to get into programs or internships, he got rejected. Too many other kids with better backgrounds, better schools, better everything. Then one night he saw the video, Stephen Curry telling the world what happened to his mother, and then announcing the new scholarship program. Marcus sat up straight. He read the details. This wasn't just another giveaway. It was a chance, a real one. So he applied, sent in his sketches, his school grades, a letter explaining why this mattered to him. Didn't expect much. But weeks later, he got the email. Congratulations. That single word changed his life. Because now, he was going to college, studying automotive engineering, all because of what Stephen Curry chose to do after seeing his mother disrespected. And Marcus wasn't the only one. There were dozens like him, young people who had been overlooked, told they weren't good enough, told they didn't belong, until someone showed them that they did. That's the power of standing up, not with anger, but with action. Now let me take you back even further, back to when Stephen Curry was just starting out, before the fame, before the championships, when he was still trying to prove himself. People thought he was too small, too slow, too soft. Even when he got to the NBA, some said he wouldn't last, that he couldn't handle pressure. But Stephen proved them wrong, every time, not by yelling, not by fighting, but by working harder, by staying focused, by rising above. That's who he is, and that's exactly what he did when he found out what happened to his mom. He didn't go online and call out the dealership, didn't trash them on social media, didn't demand apologies or lawsuits. Instead, he built something better, something big, something that would help people for years to come. That's leadership, that's class, that's legacy. And the best part, he didn't stop there. Because once the scholarship program started getting attention, more companies wanted to help. Car brands reached out. Universities offered support. People who had faced similar moments shared their stories. They talked about times they were judged by how they looked, about doors that were shut before they could knock. But now, thanks to Stephen and Sonya, those doors were opening, one by one. So what does this story teach us? It teaches us that we can't control what happens to us. We can't stop people from being unfair, from making assumptions, from acting like they know who we are based on the way we walk in the door. But we can control what we do next. We can choose to turn pain into purpose, anger into action, shame into strength. And that's exactly what Stephen Curry did. He didn't just protect his mom, he empowered her. He didn't just react, he responded. And in doing so, he inspired millions. Maybe even you. Maybe even someone watching right now. Someone who feels like they don't belong, like they're not good enough, like they're not seen. If that's you, remember this story. Remember Sonya Curry. Remember Stephen Curry. Remember what they built from one painful moment. And remember, you belong, you matter, and your story is just getting started. You know what's interesting? This story didn't start with Stephen Curry. It started with someone else, someone who made a choice to judge before they knew, to shut the door before even saying hello. But that moment, that one moment, of disrespect ended up doing something powerful. It showed the world two kinds of people, the kind who shut doors, and the kind who open them. Stephen Curry is one of the ones who opens them, not just for his mom, but for everyone who's ever been told, directly or not, that they don't belong. Let me tell you about another person this story touched. Her name is Tasha. She was working at a gas station in Texas, 23 years old, dreamed of becoming a mechanic, spent her free time watching car repair videos online, even fixed her uncle's truck when nobody else could. But whenever she walked into a dealership, people looked right past her. Didn't believe a young black woman could know anything about cars. She got used to it, but she never accepted it. Then one day, while scrolling through her phone during her break, she saw the video. Sonya Curry being kicked out of that store. Tasha felt something deep inside. She'd been through that so many times. But then came the rest of the story. Stephen's response, the scholarship program, the message behind it, that you don't need permission to belong. You already do. She watched the video 3 times. Then she saved it, sent it to her little brother, texted her best friend, said this is what I'm talking about. And guess what? She applied. Didn't care if she had no formal training. Didn't care if she didn't have a perfect GPA. She had heart, and she had drive. And now, she's in school, learning everything she can about engines, design and auto tech, because of one moment, one decision, one man who chose to respond with purpose, instead of anger. That's the ripple effect of doing the right thing. It doesn't stop with the people you see. It spreads farther than you can imagine. Now let me take you back again, back to that Ferrari store. Do you think the employees there expected any of this? Probably not. They probably thought Sonya Curry would just walk away, maybe feel embarrassed, maybe forget about it. But here's the thing. People like Stephen Curry, they don't forget, they don't ignore, they don't stay silent, they act. And their actions speak louder than any apology ever could. What happened after the story went viral? Well, the dealership didn't make a big statement, didn't issue an official apology, didn't try to fix their image with a press release. They just faded away because the world stopped paying attention. And that's the funny thing about hate, or bias, or whatever you want to call it. When you treat people wrong, you might not get called out, you might not get canceled, but you will get ignored. And sometimes, that's the worst punishment of all. Because when people stop caring about you, that's when you realize you've lost more than just a customer. You've lost your place in the world. Now contrast that with what Stephen did. He didn't just stand up for his mom. He stood up for dignity, for the idea that no matter where you come from, you deserve to be treated with kindness. And that's why people still talk about this story today, years later, because it wasn't just about a car store. It was about how we treat each other, about how we choose to respond when life throws us something unfair, and about how one man used pain as fuel to build something better, something real, something that changed lives, including yours. Yes, yours, because if you're listening to this story, it means you were meant to hear it. Maybe you felt like you didn't belong somewhere. Maybe someone tried to shut the door on you. Maybe you've been judged before you could speak. If that's you, remember this. You are not alone, and you are not powerless, because you have the same power Stephen Curry had, the power to rise, to respond with purpose, to turn pain into something meaningful, to prove every single day that you belong, no matter what anyone says, no matter where you come from, no matter what anyone thinks. Your story is still being written, and how it ends depends on what you do next. Let me tell you about another life this story touched. A little girl named Lila. She was only 9 years old when she first saw the video. Her mom showed it to her while they were having dinner one night. Lila didn't know who Stephen Curry was at first, but then she heard his voice, and she watched how he talked about his mom, how he stood up for her, how he built something good from something bad. Something clicked inside Lila. That night she asked her mom a question. Can I be like him someday? Her mom smiled. You already are. You see, Lila loved drawing cars. She filled notebooks with them, big ones, small ones, fast ones, fancy ones. She even gave them names. She told her teacher once that when she grew up she wanted to design cars that could fly. The teacher laughed, told her to be more realistic, but Lila didn't stop dreaming. And after watching that video, she started believing even more. Because if Stephen Curry could do something so powerful just because someone was unfair to his mom, then maybe she could do something powerful too. Maybe she could design flying cars. Maybe she could change the world. Maybe she could help people feel like they belonged. All because of one moment, one decision, one story. That's the magic of what Stephen did. It didn't just inspire adults. It inspired kids. Kids who are now growing up thinking differently, thinking that kindness matters, that standing up for your family is cool, that doing the right thing is stronger than doing the easy thing. Now let me take you back again, back to the beginning, to that day Sonya Curry walked into that store. She had no idea what was going to happen, didn't expect to be kicked out, didn't expect to become part of a global story, didn't expect to help change lives. But isn't that how the best stories start, with someone just living their life, until something happens, and they become part of something bigger than themselves? That's what happened to Sonya. She became a symbol, not of pain, not of shame, but of strength, of dignity, of grace under pressure. And Stephen, he became proof that real men don't need loud voices to make a difference. They don't need anger to show power. They lead with love. They respond with purpose. And they never forget where they came from. So what happened after the event? After the applause? After the headlines? Sonya went back to her normal life, cooking, talking to friends, watching her son play basketball. Stephen kept playing ball too, winning games, breaking records, being a dad, being a husband, being a man of character. But behind the scenes, the program kept growing. More students applied, more companies joined in, more lives began to change, because one moment of disrespect turned into a movement of respect. One woman's pain turned into 1,000 dreams, and one man's response turned into a legacy. That's the kind of impact we're talking about. This wasn't just a story about a car dealership. It was a story about what happens when you choose to rise instead of react, when you turn hate into hope, when you use pain as fuel, and when you remember that your actions don't just affect the people you see, they affect the world, even the parts you'll never know about. So if you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for listening, for letting this story into your heart. Maybe you needed to hear it today. Maybe you needed to remember that you matter, that your story matters, that you have the power to do something meaningful, even when life gives you something painful. If that's you, then take this story with you. Hold on to it. Let it remind you that you can choose your response. You can build something better. You can stand up for the people you love. And you can inspire others, even without knowing it. Because that's what Stephen Curry did. And that's what you can do too. If this story moved you, even just a little, then it did what it was meant to do. Because stories like this, they're not just about Stephen Curry, or his mom, or even the people who got scholarships and changed their lives. They're about all of us, about how we treat each other, about how we respond when things go wrong, about how we choose to move forward. Maybe you've been in Sonya's shoes, maybe you've been in Stephen's, or maybe you're someone like Marcus, or Tasha, or Lila, someone who saw this story and thought I can do something too. If that's you, then don't stop here. Take what you felt from this story and carry it with you. Use it to stand up for someone else, to build something better, to make someone feel like they belong. That's how change starts. Not with big speeches, not with loud voices, but with small choices. Kindness over hate, action over silence, love over fear, and always, always standing up for the people you care about. If you made it all the way to the end of this story, you're not here by accident. You're here because you were meant to hear it. So now I want to ask you something. Will you share this story? Will you send it to someone who needs to hear it? Will you hit that like button? Will you subscribe so you never miss another story like this? Because if you do, you're not just watching history, you're helping make it. Thank you for being here, for listening, for caring, and for being someone who chooses to rise instead of react. Until next time.